Y'all, it has been so long since I recorded a video. I don't remember how. I'm like, what do I do with this? Is this how do I record like this? Where does the light go? Today we're talking about revising. We're talking about revising because I am obviously procrastinating revising right now. So I thought making a video would be a really useful way to procrastinate the actual job of revising a book. I should say I'm super stoked about this revision. I generally almost always love revisions. I think that makes me a little bit strange, though we are out there, we authors who really enjoy revising books, but I would almost be tempted to say I feel more like an author when I am revising books than when I am drafting books. I got feedback on this book, and all of the feedback was pretty much exceptional, which is not always the experience I have. So that was awesome. My feedback people are fantastic. So I'm really excited to get going. But I wanted to do a bit of a video about the process. I suppose because my process changes a lot and over the years has changed massively. I mean, I used to, if you've ever read Stephen King's On Writing, he outlines how he does revisions, and I used to very much do them like that. I had my whole notebook and everything. I didn't always print, but I definitely took a lot of written notes. And I don't do that quite as much anymore, largely because I find it's hard for me to find those notes again. It's a little bit easier if I have them in a digital format that I can just search. Having said that, I have filled just pages and pages and pages with written notes because I have a lot to think about, and writing is how I think about things. So I suppose I could say my current rule is if it's something that I'm just processing to get to the point where I can decide what actions to take, handwriting is awesome. If it's something that I'm going to need to refer back to, or if it's something that needs to actually go into the book, so if it's a note to myself, or if it's this scene needs to be written, this character needs to come up in this scene that's already written and needs to be added, that's all stuff that I want to make sure is somewhere in my digital life so that I can search for it. The issue, and this is not I have solved it. This is the video where I'll tell you how to revise and what great system that I use for that, because I've come to the conclusion there is no perfect system. I don't think for me there is a perfect one app system where everything for a book goes into the same application or program or online thing, whatever. I don't have that. I have a number of tools that I use. Among them, Notion. I live and die by Notion. I fucking love Notion. Notion is my friend. I was into it before it got big on TikTok. I just want to put that out there. I love their first album before they got big. I also could not survive without Google Drive, though some of its things where it's trying to be more helpful, I turn off because it's not. If anyone has cat tips about how to get cats to get along, I'm open to those. That was another digression. Anyway, so yes, Notion, Google Drive. I love Obsidian. I can't fucking figure out how to work it into any of my systems, but I love it, and I did a huge amount of early work for this particular novel in Obsidian, just kind of free writing and doing mind maps, and there's some historical stuff I had to keep track of that I was able to put there and actually reference back. And Scrivener, which I love, which I've been using for many years, and I know how to use it, so it's pretty straightforward for me to use it. Has a learning curve, which I think we all know at this point. But I still love Scrivener. I still find it very useful for series books where I want to be able to search in one project and find out, what Will Derry's mom's name was in whatever book. I don't remember where it was. That genuinely is a thing that I search for with some frequently. People's names. I wish that, okay, if I was like a real video editor, I would take a picture of the cat right now because he's being king of the castle and he's such a bully. He's the baby of the family and he's such an asshole. Anyway, back to revising. So, just a little background on this project. First draft is written. It's what I would call a skeletal draft. The bones of the book are there. The things that I was worried about writing for this particular book, it is historical, which terrifies me. It is British, which terrifies me. So I was worried about nailing the voice and nailing the sense of place. So those were the things I really focused on in the first draft. I wanted to make sure that I could acceptably write this time period and this, when I say accent, it's a pretty specific British accent. And then, I don't know, y'all, like, can I do working class Victorian London? I don't think so, but I sort of tried to like kind of do it lightly so that you could at least pick up on the differences. I don't know. I'm going to leave that for other people to decide whether or not that was successful. I worked really, really goddamn hard at it. But what I'm saying is, in this skeletal draft, I prioritized certain things and deprioritized other things. It is a mystery novel, and I deprioritized the mystery part of that, which may seem strange. It made and still makes to me a lot of sense. Like, the emotional arcs hit on all the right moments, and then I got to go add in like the rest of the plot. So any revision where I, Kris Ripper, am sitting down to write and I need to write more is a good revision for me. The harder revisions for me are when it's like, okay, this thread that goes all the way throughout the book is not working, so it needs to be tweaked fucking everywhere. Like, go in and make 1,000 tiny tweaks to every scene. That's where I get like, yeah, no, I quit. I'm just gonna not write books anymore. That is the moment where I know that I'm in over my head. So as far as revisions go, I'm super excited about this one. Today, I am trying to work out a plan for it. I used to revise without a plan. These days I like a plan. I'm getting kind of old. These days I like a plan for everything. Did I used to have plans for things? No. Did I know about beats? Did I outline things? No, I didn't do any of that stuff. But these days I'm old, and actually I think I'm better. So I'm writing more complicated things, and they call for different tools and different systems. So my major tools for this revision are, as noted, Notion, Google Drive, Scrivener, which is where I do the actual writing until it goes off to an editor, and in my case, timeline software, which I also love, which I think is called Eon Timeline. I think it's Eon Timeline. Didn't we have a show on MTV in the early 90s that was called Eon Flux? Did I make that up? Flux? Anyway, old people, give me a shout. In any case, it's AEON Timeline, and I really love it. I bought it a number of years ago. It's how I know, for instance, how old a character is if I'm picking up a book some years after the last book they were in. All of these things are made easier. You know, I can kind of tell where people are. Every now and then I use it for a birthday, because that's built in once you want to know a character's age. Anyway, I really like that program. I'm sure there are lots of timeline programs that do the exact same thing. This is the one that I use. It does integrate with Scrivener, but you can't have them open simultaneously, which for me defeats the purpose. Like, I get why it's like that, but I don't use it like that, so it doesn't make sense. So today, on my list, and wouldn't this be a better video if I went and put in like little like screen caps of me doing all these things. But y'all, is that likely? Not really. Anyway, I miss doing that kind of editing, but it takes up so much time. And if you don't do it often, you basically spend 2 hours relearning all of the things that made you faster when you were doing it more often. And then you don't do it again for a long time. So it's just an ongoing process of relearning things you thought you knew. Anyway, I digress. Again, I ramble. It's like in the branding. Oh my gosh, also, I did not do my hair for this. So I guess it's just going to do what it does. I have very curly hair. I haven't grown it out in many years, so I don't know. So, all of this is brought to you by the fact that I rashly told my agent that I could get this book to her revised next week. So I only have like 30,000 words to write. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm not super worried about it. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's just not a thing that I can be too worried about. So, today, I need to do the following things. Figure out the characters that I'm going to add who will be suspects. Because it's a murder mystery. And I didn't add enough suspects. I only have one. The murderer, so obviously there needs to be a few more. This is the kind of thing also, I will say this because it might be helpful to someone else. Since I started publishing books, I have mentally, dramatically limited the type of book that I think I'm capable of writing. Seems weird, but before I published, I figured I could write whatever the hell I wanted. I didn't feel at all limited. After publishing, and I am not someone who reads reviews or really honestly gives a flying fuck what anyone thinks, but I think it's the process of trying to figure out what editors will buy, where it's like, well, editors only want rom-coms and romantasy, which is apparently a thing. Like these are the things that everybody wants and nobody wants anything else. So my world of things that I felt capable of creating basically narrowed and narrowed and narrowed and narrowed and narrowed until it was just like this big. So when I set out to write a historical British murder mystery, I was like, I cannot do any of these things, which may have made it easier to try because it seems so unattainable. Having said that, I did write a book. And you'll read it because I'm all in. So all that to say, when you have narrowed yourself in a corner of what you believe you are capable of, that's a really good time to challenge yourself to do the opposite of what you believe you're capable of, because it only enriches you, even if you fucking fail at doing it. And to be clear, I just wrote a murder mystery in which there was only the one suspect who is the murderer. So I like a failure. Failure is good. Failure we learn from. Even if you fail, you grow much more than you do by doing the same thing over and over again. If you're interested in that. Not everybody is interested in that. You don't have to be interested in that. But I don't like feeling backed into a corner. So I am deeply, deeply engaged in the process of not limiting myself. Anyway, philosophy lesson over. Whatever the fuck. So today, I have to nail down who my suspects are. I have to give them names, which I hate doing and I'm not good at. I have to give them motives, because they can't be feasible suspects if they don't have motives. To go along with that, I need evidence for why they'd even be a suspect and alibis for how they're not the killer. So, no big deal. Then I have to figure out where they're going to fit in, which generally for me, there's going to be a scene for each of them where we kind of introduce them and explore them a bit. And then there's going to be additional to that a number of not full scenes, but additions where I kind of play with these different suspects in the draft that already exists. Because you can write it so that it's just like every suspect gets like 3 very clear beats and then you eliminate them. but it's not as fun as kind of like intermingling everything. I need to figure out who my sleeper suspect is. That's the one that is not obvious who you think it is, but it's not. I don't know if that's a real term. That's just how I think of them. I need my obvious suspect, who is going to be so obvious that when you're reading it, you're like, probably the suspect is too obvious and it can't possibly be them. I need at least 2 or 3 other suspects. Yeah, 2 or 3 other suspects, probably. So I have a couple of these nailed down. But they all have to be basically integrated into the book that exists, because the book that exists is skeletally all there. It needs some meat on the bones, but the pacing will work once there's more to it. I'm like feeling very besieged by the kitten right now. He's a beast. So I need to do all that. I need to work on my timeline to make sure that timeline things all still make sense, because I really care about timelines. And additionally, I need to get a rough idea of all of these scenes and additions and where they're going to fit in on my spreadsheet, which tells me the plan for the book. And then I just need to write it all. So yeah, I thought it might be fun if I share a little bit of my, do you see him back there? He's crazy. If I shared a little bit of my revising system, like calling it a system feels a little grandiose. I think that while in a perfect world I would have like one program that has a timeline and a note section and interlinking and all of these other things, it's not really necessary for me. Do I wish I had a few better rules that I stuck to about like where certain information was going to be? Yes. At most, I only have to search through like 4 different programs if I need to find information that I know I've written down somewhere. So, no big deal, right? So yeah, this all changes. It all changes. Everything changes over and over again. But I love stuff like this. So I thought for my fellow writing and revising nerds, I would just include a little bit of a video of me rambling about revising. Thank you for watching. You can hit up my Patreon if you want to hang out. Patreon.com/KrisRipper. I am no longer on the Twitter. I will not be checking that, but I am on the Instagram, which I feel like is also Kris Ripper. Probably, right? And I'm also on the Facebook, though I don't really remember what that looks like. It's KrisRipper.com/irregulars will get you there. So yeah, those are all the places you can find me if you actually want to after this extraordinarily long video. I don't know. Maybe you do. Thanks for watching. Bye.